That was Erica Stanford on ZB this morning. Of course, we'll have Erica Stanford on our regular Friday political panel here on Herald Now Friday morning with Willie Jackson. Now, we've already done that bit. Let's move on. Corruption. You can't corrupt me, but you can apparently corrupt a lot of border officials in New Zealand. New report out this morning painting quite a bleak picture of what the future could look like in terms of corruption. It's mainly organised crime and it's mainly drugs that are coming in across the border, and it's mainly for the financial gain of these border agents, which is why they're being corrupted. Also in the last 24 hours, we've had the NZR CEO Mark Robinson standing down. Our panel this morning, Rawdon Christie, who is former broadcaster, of course, and communications and property expert, along with Louisa, former Labour MP and rugby player. Good morning.
Morena.
Good to have you guys here.
How are you, Ryan?
Really good, thank you. I thought I'd start, Louisa, since we have you here. I'd start with Mark Robinson. What did you make of the announcement and also what it might mean for the future of rugby?
Well, the announcement, I think he's been clear. He wants to be with his family in Australia. So we wish Mark all the best. He's done amazing work, just firstly for women's rugby, and I want to acknowledge that, but also obviously has steered us through tough times with COVID. What I make of it though is that we have had a New Zealand rugby CEO and a commercial rugby CEO, and going forward we need a CEO that can do both jobs. And so we need a skill set now that is able to negotiate our sponsorships, our television coverage. There's a men's player pathway on the table, so there are issues with the current structure. But at the heart of what Mark has done and bought has been the pride in wearing the black jersey, which we should always remember, and that focus on the grassroots. You know, it is that base of grassroots support that has always produced the best rugby players in the world.
Do you worry this idea that we go for a group CEO type model? Do you worry, and maybe we'll go international, maybe it won't even be somebody who has a rugby background? Does that concern you, or do you think?
No, it doesn't concern me, but I think that's what you're balancing, the local with the global, and an ability for somebody to make sure the infrastructure, which are the clubs, you know, the pathways from school, it is provincial unions, also can compete in that global market. And that we've seen some announcement recently about sponsorship deals, for example. And so there is an appeal, but that is the type of person we need who can bring the local and the global together, but unified in our continued love for the game. And for me, that's our biggest challenge, is there's been a decrease in the player base.
Yeah. Rawdon, is this a job for you?
So there's 15 on one side and 15 on the other side.
Roughly.
To me, it's a case you've got to protect the All Blacks brand because it's so valuable to us nationally. It's not about rugby that necessarily. That's much bigger than that. The grassroots challenges. We've got a lot of sports evolving in this country, which is attractive to young boys and girls to play. And there's a lot of competition for their attention. So you've got to make it watchable and you've got to make it playable. And I think that's a focus that's obviously not going to be the focus of whatever new leader of New Zealand rugby or CEO takes, but that's just for the game globally, is they've got to pay attention to what it is which makes young people want to actually play and watch the game. But that's going slightly off track.
No, I think that's basically the gist of it, isn't it? I mean, that's the biggest challenge that the sport has, particularly in New Zealand right now, is just the number of young people who are wanting to play.
Exactly. It is the demand, and that's where the Black Ferns and our Black Fern Sevens have captured the hearts and imaginations of not only young women, but I also think young men, because of the brand of rugby they play, but also they're amazing role models.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's not necessarily the sport, it's that first attracts you to it. It's the personalities of the people that hook you in and get you playing. So, fascinating discussion. Now, on to another one, corruption. This morning we've had this report out that says, and we think of ourselves in New Zealand as kind of uncorrupt, you know, we're always up at the top of the corruption index, doing very well, quite proud of that, you know, looking down at all the other countries. We've slipped from first to fourth, which doesn't sound that bad. But we listened to the experts this morning on the show. They're saying, actually, we're going to keep sliding. And if you look at what happened to Australia, they're about 10 years ahead of us. And it's organised crime coming in and corrupting border officials, things like that. Rawdon, do you think we're maybe a little bit resting on our laurels?
I find it amazing when I read the stories of how these mass importation of drugs are getting through our borders. how Mickey Mouse some of the systems must be. It just amazes me when this is something so fundamentally important to us across every sector of society. How you hear about the guy passing the pass to his cousin who's driving the van through the gate at the back of the runway, and he's round the corner, and then he's taking the suitcase with the red X off. It just amazes me that there isn't a far, far greater and more robust security system at our borders. How do you resolve that? Do you make it more the responsibility of the people who are actually running those borders, be it the airport authority, be it the port? I think airports more so. But it's got to start with regulation, which then comes down to who are you employing to do the jobs. There are plenty of people who are looking for great jobs at the moment. So who are you getting in there to do the jobs? Are you vetting them properly? Are your systems robust enough to stop this? But it has to be an easier way to sort of rejig the entire system to keep us safer.
See, I wonder whether we actually are fooling ourselves here that we can stop illegal drugs from coming into New Zealand. And who has managed to do that? Name me one country. None. And we catch about 10% of what comes in.
But fundamentally, we need a strategy and we need a commission. So we should be replicating what Australia's doing, to be honest. This is where our our closer relationship can play a part in what we do moving forward. I think the strategy should be led by the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet. And then I think, like you've said, Rawdon, we do need some legislation in place. And ironically, we've just had, foreign interference has been debated in the Parliament this year. But that's more from political actors coming in and undermining. But this is also undermining our democracy. So for me, I see both this corruption issue and the foreign interference issue as potentially one issue that we need regulation, as Rawdon has said. But we've been incredibly naive and we have rested on our laurels. And now that this panel has produced this evidence, we need a very swift response.
Okay, and led from the DPMC?
I would. And leverage off the Aussies. They're our mates.
Yeah, they've been there, done that, haven't they?
Exactly, and the other issue is what's happening through the Pacific.
Yeah, which we haven't even got to yet, but we will return with our panel in just a few moments, 26 after 8 here on Herald Now. Welcome back to our Herald Now panel for this morning. Former MP, Labour MP Louisa and Rawdon Christie, who is former broadcaster. You do obviously have new jobs, but I just keep calling you by your old ones. Thank you for being with us this morning. AI, speaking of what will probably put me out of a job one day, AI, generative AI, lots of new stuff you can do with it. This morning we were talking about tax returns. It's not only can it do your tax return, but it can fake a receipt for you as well, so you can cheat on your tax returns. Rawdon, do you use...
Yep, every day.
What do you use it for?
Well, last night I used it for when I was asked, what's your title for this morning's show? And I thought... So I genuinely run all these issues and problems and dilemmas and sort of anything to do with words and scripts, I'll run through some sort of chat GPT, because I do a lot of marketing and a lot of advertising, writing adverts and things. And so I did. I said, what should I call myself as a former broadcaster who's now working in real estate and does some media commentary? And it came up with a list of options, and from broadcasting veteran to, I don't know, God knows what else, but we're not using any. We're still just saying former broadcaster. But on a serious note, I use it every day for work. I think we all use it every day. When we do a Google search now, it's always AI. I use it to profile potential clients before I meet them, so I know what sort of personalities I may be coming up against. I'd certainly use it to soften, maybe if I've written a passionate email or letter, I run it through AI and say,
really? Please
give me a more professional...
You're using it too, look, you're nodding.
Yeah, I use
every
it
day.
too, in exactly the same way. I'll write an email and then I'll ask for an edit, and it's really interesting because you can have different tones. More relaxed or formal.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you do you not worry that you're putting presumably private information into this machine?
No, because I'm always polite. I always say, hi, please could you help me? And here's a question, how many people are asking this machine politely to help them? I mean, it's ludicrous. But I've talked to people about it, and they say, well, you just don't know if the people are profiling your personality based on how you're talking to the machine.
I always say please, but I'll say please edit this, and am I missing anything? But the issue is you can't just say write this letter. You have to write it, and for me they edit what you do. And yes, it does depend on the pitch and the tone, as you would imagine, for the recipient could be quite vital.
Yeah, because sometimes, I don't know, I would worry about putting I just worry what it would do with all the information that you give it, you know? Is it
Well,
gonna...
I sort of guess that I'm such a tiny speck in the mountain of life that my information is irrelevant. I mean, but I've used it. I've written a song with it, terrible song. I've written a book, all AI, terrible. No one else has ever read it. But it's fun playing with the amount of information we have access to at the press of a button.
Yeah.
As Louisa said, though, the key, on a serious note, is you've got to train it, and you've got to give it information, and then it will gradually. When it knows my writing style now, so when I'm working on an advertising script for a property, it knows the type of style I want to reach.
Crazy. Maybe I should do it.
Why not?
This show could be so much better.
You could lie in bed all morning. It could be a virtual Ryan.
Hey guys, thanks so much for coming in. Great to see you both.
Thank you. Can I just say well done? You're being
Yeah,
awesome.
agreed.
Oh, thanks guys. Appreciate that. That's Louisa Wall, former MP and Silver Fern. There we are still by. Oh, here's your one. Rawdon Christie, communications and property expert. Thank you, GPT, Chat GPT. 29 away from 9. Here's News with Neva.